A visitor. Coming. Hello there. Can I help you? It's not often I get visitors out here. Especially not this late into the evening. You're a brave one for coming this deep into the forest past sunset. The one and only. I'm Lisa, the most powerful witch of this forest. The only witch of this forest. But don't let that deceive you. What's your name? It's nice to meet you. But how can I help you? You don't look like someone who's gotten lost in the forest and just happened to stumble across my cabin. You seem a bit shy, but sure. I offer my magic as a service. Not many from your town take me up on it. They seem to have their suspicions about me. A lone witch deep in the forest. If you told anyone that you were coming to see me, or asked anyone for directions, then I'm sure you heard the rumors of a dark, evil witch who lures her victims out into the forest, far from the town where they won't be heard. But no, I'm just a girl who likes the quiet and independence of living in the forest. I grow, gather, or hunt my own food while away my days relaxing and studying magic, and helping out the occasional traveler who comes to visit. Before we get too engrossed in whatever magic you'd wish to ask of me, are you in any particular hurry this evening? Perfect. Then would you join me for some tea? I also have some fresh baked apple bread, as well as some lemon tarts. I'm sure you're tired from walking all this way. So let's take a break, enjoy some delicious treats, and we can discuss whatever it is that brought you here. Is that okay? Nonsense. If you're uncomfortable with it, then that's one thing. But it's been, probably about 1.5 years since anyone has stopped by. So, if you're willing, I won't turn down the company. What do you say? Perfect. Come with me into the back room, though be careful not to bump into anything. Well, when you live this far into the forest, expecting regular visits would be a futile exercise, even without the rumors. But I don't really mind, I guess. It's quiet out here, and I appreciate that. Go ahead, take a seat on one of the sofas. They're super comfy. That's one of the magics I'm most proud of. But, let's see. Let's get this fire going. I'm a witch, remember? I do know how to light a fire the normal, non-magical way as well. Which has come in handy 2 or 3 times over the years when I've exhausted all my mana. But I'm not that great at it. Doing it with magic is just way easier for me. But either way, that should be nice and warm and cozy, and I'll get the water boiling. Just wait here and I'll grab the food, okay? Oh, hi there, little kitty. Yeah, I see you found Mia. Did she come over to you like that? Well, she seems pretty comfortable. She must really like you. I'm surprised. Not that you're a bad person or that she shouldn't like you, of course. I didn't mean it like that. I more meant it as she's only a couple of years old. And both of the other times someone has come by since I've had her, she didn't really like having new people here. She got really skittish and avoided them, even avoided me, and mostly just hid in one of the closets for the rest of the day, even part of the next day. She really seems to like you. She got all curled up in your lap immediately, almost no hesitation. She can be pretty affectionate like this, yeah. But it's also kind of a hit or miss, you know. Either way, she seems to want you to pet her, so... Aren't you lucky? Anyway, here you go. A few different teas to choose from. Pick whatever you'd like and... some treats. Go on, no need to be shy. Try them. I'm glad I made these lemon tarts. It's been quite a while, but... perfect mix of sour and sweet. It pairs so nicely with this tea. There you go. What do you think? How is it? I'm glad. It's hard to get lemons out here in the middle of this forest. So, we have to make do, but... Well, with a greenhouse and a bit of magic, you'd be surprised by what you can grow. There's also the magic part of making things taste like other things, but that's a little bit trickier. So, since I doubt you came all this way into the forest for some lemon tarts, as delicious as they might be, what did bring you out here? What magic would you like me to perform for you? I can't do whatever it is if you don't tell me. I'm pretty good at magic, but mind reading is beyond the scope of anything I've learned. It's theoretically possible, at least in some particular contexts and manifestations, but outside of some specific laboratory tests, I don't know of any examples of it being done. So, well, embarrassing or not, I can't do it if I don't know what it is. And given that you came all the way to ask me, I'd suspect it's something you'd actually quite like me to do, Not many brave the forest and the rumors of the evil witch for a mere idle whim. Though, if you do decide that, in fact, that you do not wish to tell me, then that's also perfectly alright. Just when and if you're ready. A cat? You want to become a cat? That's certainly not what I was expecting. I'm not judging you or anything. Cats are obviously wonderful creatures. Just when I can guess from the entire magical corpus, transfiguration transfiguration isn't generally the first thing that comes to mind. Particularly in the context of ordinary folk hiring a witch, the most common desires are probably health, love, wealth, or success, which is hard for us to do much about. And beauty. But usually in a more limited way than full cross-species transmutation, you know. So, I was expecting something more like a love potion or medicine for an otherwise incurable disease or injury. You assume too far and underestimate the great witch Lisa. Of course I can do the transfiguration you desire. Of course. I see the surprise in your eyes that conveys that you thought this was a long shot. But yes, I can do that for you. However, before I do that, may I ask you a few questions? What makes you want to become a cat? I mean, it's not a trivial matter to undertake. I'd hate for you to do something drastic on something of a whim. Well, I suppose that's understandable. Wait here a moment. I need to consult one of my spell books to ensure I perform the magic correctly. Would hate to accidentally turn you into a squirrel. Or worse. Alright. Now, let's see. This is sort of the de facto authority on most transfiguration, so it should be in here somewhere. Yes, both inanimate and animate transfiguration. Though, you can't really mix them without a lot of careful planning and intricate soul manipulation, which obviously comes with great risks. Inanimate to inanimate is the easiest since it doesn't need to concern itself with that. Then, animate to animate, which does have some soul manipulations, but it's pretty manageable for a skilled witch. Oh, of course I'm a skilled witch. I told you, I'm the most powerful witch in this forest. That's true. There's not any competition for that title. But as some consolation, I am certified under the Compact of Mages as W2 and 3, meaning I passed the 2nd class Witchcraft exam and the 3rd class General Magecraft exam. Most mages are 4th or 5th class. And I finished on the top rank for this regional amongst taking the 2nd class Witchcraft exam. Thanks. Honestly, it's mostly the fact that I've studied magic since, well, basically as long as I can remember. So, with a few decades of experience, I'd like to think you're in good hands. Ah, I found it. Okay. First step is to determine well, the book calls it aptitude, but there's an outdated perspective. It's more correct to call it affinity. That's basically your sensitivity to magic, especially this kind of magic. And we'll use that to calibrate the transfiguration. If you've a high affinity, then it'd be easy to accidentally overdo it. And if you've a low affinity, it's easily to only partially transfigure you, neither of which would be good. But it's easy to test for and easy to calibrate and compensate for. Yeah. What I'm going to do is basically channel some mana through your body and observe how it flows, how quickly or smoothly, how much resistance there is, whether there are any irregularities, that sort of thing. But it's more complicated than that, but that's the basic idea. You'll be able to feel it, yeah. Though, it shouldn't be unpleasant. In fact, if you have a high affinity, it'll likely feel really warm and gentle. That sort of warmth that you might feel in your stomach or chest after drinking warm tea. If you have a low affinity, honestly, it probably won't feel like very much at all. Maybe just a bit of pushing or prodding. Yeah. That should be just fine. I do have your consent to go forward with this. Alright, then stand up for me. Yes, just like that. And let me take your hands, nice and gentle. It's a lot easier to channel mana through direct skin-to-skin contact. As I said, it shouldn't be an issue, but if this ends up being painful or otherwise unpleasant for any reason, just say something or squeeze my hands and I'll stop, okay? Any questions before I start? Alright then. 3, 2, 1. How does that feel? Good, good. And now? I see. Honestly, you have a really high magical affinity. I don't have the means to determine it precisely. There are tools for that, but I don't have them. But it seems higher than many 4th or 5th class mages. And for someone with no magical training, that's very high. In fact, I think it's high enough for me to do more sophisticated transfiguration for you than you'd originally asked for. Well, you said you wanted to become a cat, right? I'm pretty sure I know which of those you meant, but I was going to ask as clarification whether you meant an actual full-blooded cat like Mia here, or a human-cat hybrid, an echo, which would leave you mostly humanoid and able to speak, but shorter with feline traits. Some fur, claws, sharper teeth, cat ears, a tail, and likely behavioral traits like purring, etc. That's what I figured. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But most people would choose the second, as they're different invocations, which is why I needed to ask. But the thing is, I think your affinity is high enough that I can do both for you. Well, I think I can give you both forms and the ability to switch between them freely. I wouldn't actually have been able to do a full cat and full human form because of the necessary soul manipulations, but I suspect that might not be an issue for you. From my perspective, that's strictly an improvement of being locked to just a full cat form. But what do you think? So, what we do is attune your soul to both of these forms, making it simple to switch between them. You might think of it as two valleys in a mountain range. They're low points that are easy to slide into, and you have enough magical affinity that you'd basically be able to cast a spell to switch forms. That's not exactly right, but it's close. Either way, you wouldn't be able to reflexively and instinctively do it, even without practice. As I said, you'll be able to freely switch between them, and there are some limitations. Well, I'll be able to attune your soul, and thus, by extension, your physical body, but I can't attune anything outside of that. The more poignant example is that your clothes are not a part of that transfiguration. So, from the Neko form to the full cat form, we'll make a cat and a pile of clothes on the floor. And switching the other way will result in a Neko without any clothes. So while you can transform freely, it's probably best to exercise some care of deciding when and where to do so. It's a bit unfortunate and inconvenient. But in this context, there's not really anything feasible that might mitigate that. But since you were originally asking for the full cat form anyway, it might not be too much of an issue for you. Yeah, Neko to cat is fine. Except that if you end up with your clothes in a pile, that would be hard to do something with as a cat. But yeah, the other direction is more of an issue. Yeah, that's what you want me to do? Sure, let me just double check on how exactly it works. Alright. Yes, we're going to need to make a potion for you to drink, and I'll need to perform a couple of invocations. Not trivial, but nothing too easy either. It looks like that I even already have the potion ingredients on hand, so that's incredibly convenient. What do you want to do now? Not at all. I don't mind. It sounds kind of fun. It's not technically the point of no return, but just if you had any lingering hesitations, or if there were a few things you need to attend to beforehand, now would be a good time. Are you sure? Alright. Let's start the potion, Come with me into my ulterior. Just be careful not to touch anything unless I tell you. Here we are. This cauldron is where I make various potions. And that more open space on the side of the room is where I perform a lot of my spell work, as well as some reading and studying, as I've a desk over there. But for now, some potions can take a while, a few hours to a few days, or even longer. But this will eventually only take just a couple of minutes. Really not too bad. It is. The time it takes for a potion is rooted in a couple of different factors, but the most influential one is the affinity or attunement of the different ingredients, and that it affects how quickly they can harmonize and facilitate their mana transfer, as well as complete their ordinary chemical reactions as well. It's sort of how sodium metal will violently explode in water, but baking soda and vinegar will react in a much more controlled manner. In practice, most potions only take 3 to 10 minutes. It's just that the long, slow ones are more famous, or well, infamous, as the case may be. Boring, usually. A couple have more intricate developments, but most of them are set up the solution and wait a long time. Yeah, though that's not the case here. Alright. I was making a few potions earlier this evening, so the cauldron was already prepared. So, we're just going to go ahead and start putting in our ingredients. In addition to the general cauldron base, which is water plus a handful of catalysts that we can use for almost all potions and the like, this potion in particular requires some catnip, a part of a tiger-striped pufferfish. We'll be using these dried scales, this powder, and it really does look like glitter, doesn't it? In a way, I guess it's true, but this powder, called sparkling powder, though colloquially known as shiny powder, is a special type of magical catalyst that's useful in a lot of high-level potions. And the last ingredient we'll need is... it's, what we call Sangjing clay. Yeah, I have this magical clay prepared as a base, but we'll need just a couple of drops of your blood to add to it. It's set up to absorb that, and it'll help attune the potion to you. It'll also act as a core for my ladder invocation to bind to. Is that okay? Alright, let's go ahead and do that first then, if that's okay. Here, you can hold the clay with one hand. I have this little needle thing. I always forgot to give it a proper name. That I'll use. And yes, it has been sanitized. When you're ready, take a deep breath, and I'll give your ring finger on this hand a little prick. It'll hurt a bit, but it'll just be that one time, so you can let the clay absorb some of the blood. And I also have a bandage for you. Is that okay? Then, whenever you're ready. There you go. Are you okay? Good. I hate having to do that. But that's that part over. As I said, just put a couple drops worth of blood onto the clay and... Here, I'll trade you. Bandage for clay. Alright. This can go in now. What is it? Honestly, I don't really know what sort of flavor the potion will have. But let's see. Catnip is a sort of mint-like flavor, so that'll probably dominate it. But if I had to guess, it probably won't be the best tasting thing you've ever had, but I suspect it'll be alright. Okay. While the clay is sort of stewing in the cauldron, I'm going to go ahead and prep the other ingredients. The scale for this recipe is 100 grams of clay, but mine are prepared with 250 grams, so 45 grams of catnip become 90 plus 22 and a half, which is 112 and a half. 15 grams of the pufferfish becomes 30 plus 7 and a half, or 37 and a half. And 40 grams of sparkling powder becomes 80 plus 20, or 100. Oh, no, it'll be fine. Scaling the recipe up or down like that, within reason, anyway, don't really have too much of an effect, aside from maybe ending up with a bit more or less of your potion. It's only when you scale down that really start to interfere with the ingredients' ability to harmonize, and scaling up too far can interfere with how they flow and can overwhelm the base catalysts. But you'd have to scale it up by a factor of at least 10 or 15 to start running into that. Scaling by 2.5 is fine. No, not at all. In theory, I could have just used only 2/5 of the clay and kept the original amounts instead, but I would have had issues with that. Specifically, the clay doesn't do well when it's split up like that. Well, it has to do with the way the clay is made. In a loose sense, you could think of it as alive. So, cutting it like that would be a major injury, which is going to affect how it interacts with other ingredients. It could theoretically be avoided by taking some extra precautions when making it, but it does make it a lot more work to make, and I just don't see the point in when you can just add more of other ingredients to compensate. That's a clever question. I could make them smaller, but joining them has had the same sort of problem of reducing efficiency, even if it's not as extreme. And for me, the general use case of the magical clay requires 250 grams, so it doesn't make much sense for me to optimize for the less than 1% of the time that I need to make something else, you know. As much as there's magic involved, witchcraft is also very much a science, yeah. And that means accounting for a lot of different factors as you practice it. No, not really. Though, that is a good question. Witchcraft is, among some of the other things, primarily a mix of pure magic and chemistry, whereas magecraft is primarily a mix of pure magic and physics. Though, it's a fair bit more complicated than that. And pure magic is also just a term. But witchcraft and magecraft, along with a handful of others, are usually taught in a magical sciences department at magical academies. Exactly. There's plenty of overlap too. Anyway, all of the ingredients are in. So for now, it's just a matter of stirring and waiting for all of them to harmonize. That'll only take a couple of moments, so just be a bit more patient, kitten. I'm going to prepare for the necessary invocations as well. Yeah, that's fine. Feel free to look around. Just as I said earlier, be careful not to touch anything. I have a few ingredients in here that can be dangerous if you're not careful, and others that are very carefully arranged. Good. Okay, the potion should be done now. Yes, let me get it out of the cauldron and into a glass for you to drink. Here you go. But before you drink that, this is the point of no return. Once you drink that, even if I don't perform the invocations, there's no going back. And actually, it would be worse if I don't perform the invocations, because you'll end up with things in weird in-between states, which would definitely have some negative consequences. My point is, I'm not trying to scare you or even dissuade you. I just want to make sure that you are aware that you want to do this. Very well then. You may drink the potion. How is it? That's fair. I'm glad it wasn't too bad. Though, it'll take a bit of time for it to take effect. Though, my invocations will mostly take care of that. But you probably won't feel much better until then. Maybe a little bit here and there. So don't worry. It'll do its thing. Now, may I begin the invocation? Well, from your perspective, it won't involve much at all. I'm just going to hold your hands again so that I can more easily conduct mana through you. And I'll cast a few spells that'll take care of orchestrating the transformation, okay? Then, your hands, please. Alright. This will probably feel mostly the same as when I tested your affinity earlier, but a little bit different. As the transformation begins to take hold, I'll be directing you into a hybrid Neko form first, partially because it'll be a smaller transformation, so it'll give you a less extreme change to experience for the first time. Okay, ready? And just as the soul, it is the manifestation of the self, what defines us as ourselves. Yet, we do not change as we grow. We just grow outside of our control, by factors as age or circumstance. Yet we do change also by intention, and just as we are delicate in our balance, yet are we resilient and capable. The one before me, illuminated in mana, bears a desire and intention to change, to grow, into a true self yet unfound in the current, and as contained in the power of the soul, as aided directly by our magic. This shall transpire. Behold. There you go. You're now in your Neko form. How does it feel? That's understandable. You are inhabiting a fairly different body than you were just a few seconds ago. We do need to hurry and perform the second invocation as well, the one that grants you the full cat form as well. But do you wish to first take a look in the mirror? Alright. You probably saw that in your momentary exploration of the ulterior earlier, but there's a mirror in the corner over there. Shall we? Oh, be careful. You're shorter now, so your pants are too long. Let me roll them up a bit for you so you're less likely to trip over them. There. That should be better. What do you think? Yes, that's you. I know it's probably a bit weird to see yourself like that. 1.5 meters tall. Maybe even a bit less. Oh, those cute cat ears. It's good to know that you can feel them properly. And it sounds like a real meal. So, if that's your natural response in that form, then it seems like it worked pretty well, What about you too? It's probably caught in your pants, but you can pull it out. There you go. It looks nice and soft. Can you move it? Does it feel okay? Good. Though, yes, it'll probably take a bit of time for you to get used to all of these changes. Are you ready for the second part? The part where you become a full-fledged cat? Or, well, you retain your mind and soul at least, just in a cat's body, with some of the associated instincts. Alright, then come back to the cauldron with me. Yes, you'll need to drink a little bit more. About half of the first amount, which is obviously still in your system as well. But to manifest 2 separate forms, well, you simply need a bit of a higher dose than to manifest just one. So, here, drink up. Alright. And same as before, I'll take your hands and pass mana through you for this second invocation. Is that okay? As I hinted earlier, it should definitely feel similar. Though, because this is a more drastic transformation, it'll feel more intense. Though, again, while it may be a little unpleasant, it shouldn't be painful per se. And when you switch between the 2 forms later, it won't be an issue. A better analogy than what I gave you earlier would be that it's sort of like us forming molds for the shape of your soul. But later, once the molds have been formed, it's a lot easier and actually quite straightforward to merely adapt the form of the mold. Then, are you ready? 1 moment, please. Alright, then. And just as the soul is the manifestation of the self, what defines us as ourselves, yet we do change as we grow. And just as we grow outside of our control, by factors as age or circumstance, yet we do change also by intention. And just as we are delicate in our balance, we are also resilient and adaptable. The one before me illuminated in mana, bears a desire and intention to change, to grow into a true self not fully contained in the current, as is contained in the power of the soul, as aided and directed by our magic. This change is to uncover a co-equal self, a co-equal mold held and retained by concurrent desire and intention, shall transpire. Behold. Oh, aren't you a cute little kitty cat like that? Oh, what a cute meow you have. It looks like you can't speak normally, huh? Well, I guess that makes sense. Do you feel okay? That's good. Do you mind if I pick you up so we can go over and you can look at yourself in the mirror? Yes, that's okay. I know it probably seems strange. You can obviously go over there on your own. I'm just worried that... Yeah, just look at that. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to see since the mirror doesn't come down far enough. Would you like me to pick you up so you can see? Or would you like me to bring my desk chair over for you so you can stand on it? Alright. Nice and gentle. There we go. Alright, there we go. What do you think? Do you like it? That's good. I'm glad you like it. Oh, you're so soft. Is this your way of saying thank you? You're very welcome. I do enjoy the solitary peace and quiet of my life here in the forest, but I also enjoy being able to use my magic to help others. Especially when it's interesting magic that I've little to no excuse to practice otherwise. It's been at least a few years since I've done any soul manipulation magic, and this is the first time I've been able to do a two-form transformation. So, thank you, I suppose. How do you feel? Does everything feel okay? Can you move everything? I know you were walking just fine a moment ago, and obviously your meowing seems fine. You seem to hear and understand me, but how about your ears and tail? All four paws. Are you sore or numb anywhere? Good, good. It might be a good idea to see if that, just in case. Though, logistically. But it is definitely reassuring that you feel okay, on top of what I can tell. I imagine the pets and ear scratches make you feel even better like this. I'm going to take those purrs as a yes. There is one other important thing to test, and then one other thing at the moment that I'm just really curious about, okay? Alright. The first thing is making sure that you can properly transform between the two forms at will. Sure. Since your original request was to become a cat, then I imagine you not being particularly torn up if you were stuck in this form. That being said, because of the fact that your soul should be attuned to the two forms, it would actually be pretty bad if you couldn't switch, even if you said you didn't want to. It'd be a bit like if your knee were hurt and you just decided it wasn't anything of an issue, but you can walk well enough, you don't want to run for a marathon. Fair enough. Alright. Then I'm going to set you down, turn around, and... Your clothes are over there, remember? So, I'm going to set you down, turn around, and I just want you to change back and forth a couple of times. Look in the mirror, make sure everything that's supposed to change does. And when everything feels okay, can you do that for me? Okay. And since you have that chair, I'm going to turn around now. So, whenever you're ready, just go ahead and let me know when you're done, okay? Everything is okay, I take it? Good. And I see you ended up in your cat form, Now, I wonder how much of that is that the fact that your clothes no longer fit? Would you like me to do something about that? Well, I don't know if I can shrink them enough for them to properly fit your Neko form, but I can at least make them a little bit smaller if you'd like. No, you don't seem particularly interested one way or another. Perhaps we can figure that out later. On that note, though, if I may ask, what now? What do you intend to do now that you're a cat or an echo? I can't imagine that the townsfolk where you're from would be particularly keen on what I've done. Not that I'm saying it was a bad idea or that we shouldn't have done it, but I'm curious. What are you going to do from here? It's hard to understand from your meowing. Oh. Is your plan to just live as an ordinary house cat back in town? Somehow, I feel like I ought not to be surprised by that. Do you already have some place in mind? A family member, friend, acquaintance, who's looking to take in a cat? No. Just planning to be a stray and hope for the best. That seems a little risky, to say the least. And all guaranteed to be pretty unpleasant in the short term, no? I suppose you have come to terms with that prospect already, if you went to these lengths to make it happen, That, or you were so desperate in your aims that you didn't care. How about this? What if you stayed here? Well, I'm certainly not going to have an issue with what we've done, so you'd be safe here. And besides, I like cats. You could be my little familiar. To be fair, it's not entirely a selfless offer. I've been thinking about taking on an apprentice for some time, and ever since one of my mage friends suggested it to me, probably almost about a year ago now. So you'd be helping me with my magic. We already established, via your affinity, that you've a potential for it. Plus, there aren't many of your kind, as you are now, two-form creatures, as there are very little overlap between those who have potential, mages, for example, and those who have the desire. And I'm sure you will understand. So, I've an interest in keeping an eye on you for research purposes. And to the earlier point, that's even more true if you develop your magic. What relevance do you have between your two forms? Is one of them, for one reason or another, better attuned to the flow of magic? What sort of other effects are there for you in other regards? So many interesting questions. In addition, I must admit that on a personal level, even from the mere hour or so that we'd met, I have found you particularly pleasant and intriguing, and would like to get to know you better. Even as I value my relatively solitary existence out here, it does sometimes get rather lonely. And to have someone so catch my eye is a chance I would loathe to squander without so much as offering. Though, I also wish to respect your own decision. And if you believe that you would rather something else, then by all means pursue that. But I am but a humble witch who lives in the forest, and you owe me no duty, loyalty, or recompense. However, given the late hour, I will insist that you rest here for tonight. Even with feline's eyes, I don't especially feel comfortable with you traveling through the forest with nothing but the crescent moon to guide your way. And then you can make your decision tomorrow, after you've had an opportunity to sleep on it. Is that okay? You're welcome. Now, I'm someone who tends to go to sleep at least relatively early, so I would normally be getting ready for bed soon anyways. And you're not used to magic, so I'm sure the transformations have taken their toll on you, even as excited as you must be about them. So, come with me, and I'll show you around a bit more. As you've likely gathered, this cabin is comfortable, but not especially large. So, you've already seen a fair bit of it by virtue of walking between the front door, the back room, and where we had our tea and treats, and my ulterior here. But if you come down this hallway, in addition to the front room, which is great for relaxing, there's also this room, which is a combination between a study and a lounge. On this side of the hallway is a washroom and bedroom. You might have to do some diplomacy with Mia, but if you'd rather the litter box, then there's the corner of the back room, I suppose. As I live by myself, I've only this one bed, and it's plenty large enough for us to share, with you in either that or Neko form. I don't snore, though I can be a bit cuddly in my sleep. I'm always curled up with a plushie, but if you're more comfortable, there are a few chairs or sofas that you can sleep on, and if you decide to stay long term, then we can figure out a permanent solution. Any of those options, or bed for you. Again, whichever you're most comfortable for. The bed, Sure, though Mia may come in here too. Sometimes she sleeps in here, sometimes she doesn't, so I'm going to put your clothes on the dresser over here, as well as a set of my pajamas. They're also going to be a bit big, but if you decide you want to change into your Neko form in the middle of the night and want them, you're welcome to wear them. Do you need anything before bed? Water? Anything else? Alright. I'm going to use the washroom and change into my pajamas real quick, okay? Okay. Time to get nice and comfortable, Sleep well, and we can figure out things tomorrow. Good night, little kitty. Ugh, I need a drink after all of that. Christ. That voice is so straining to do. Oh my god. Yes, I'm aware I messed up the words a little. It adds to my charm. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed listening to this. This is probably the last video I'm going to post for tonight. So I hope you all have a lovely evening. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please like, dislike, comment, subscribe, whatever you want. And have a lovely day, night, afternoon, whatever it is for you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Mwah. Love you.